my gosh, this feels really weird right now because I literally have not been on a physical stage in like forever. And when I say forever, I mean it's been years and years and years. With everything going on right now, obviously, everything is online, everything is virtual, and between the Facebook Lives, the stories, the posts, the IG Reels, how many of you guys like feel like it's very one way, right? You're like turning on the phone, turning on the camera, talking, and you have no idea what's happening on the other side, right? You don't know who's watching, you don't know who's listening, you don't know if they're resonating with you and they're getting motivated by you, or if they're like making fun of your hair, right? So it's so different to actually be here in person. And I miss this and I love this so much because it's a different energy, right? Like we're here, we're all tuned in, we're connected to each other. I can actually read your faces and use my sensory acuity to kind of think about what you're thinking about. So I love this. So let's give Aubrey a round of applause, first of all, for even giving us an opportunity to meet. Yeah, because so many people don't, right? Everything is online. So if you're wondering who I am, I know that I've connected with some of you here. Some of you know me, some of you have no idea who I am, but my name is Anastasia. And actually about 10 years ago, I was in your seats. Not the exact same seats in a different venue, but that is when I met my first mentor, Matt Broading, which actually some of you know as Aubrey's mentor as well, and somebody that kind of inspired us to be on this journey of NLP. And I remember sitting in those seats and like learning the tools that you're learning and feeling so empowered to finally walk out of here and like change lives, right? Help people, help ourselves. And so I built such an enthusiasm and such a passion for it that I actually ended up being one of Matt's trainers and speakers. And one of his other students actually also started a couple companies, one for entrepreneurs, one for coaches. So I did a little bit of work for both of them, training, speaking, doing some marketing, doing some sales, filling up events. And I remember how simple it was. Like it wasn't easy, but it was very simple. So we would post an event on meetup.com. I don't know if any of you remember that site. But you post an event and people RSVP and they actually show up, right? Like they get dressed, they get in their cars, they pay the parking fee, and they show up to your event. And even if they have no idea who you are. And then from there, we would invite people to a free weekend seminar. And then from there, we would upsell them to a course like this, right? An actual paid training course. And it was very simple, and it was a process, right? It was very repetitive, and we knew what we were doing. And actually back then, for personal reasons, I ended up stepping away from the coaching industry, and I got into corporate sales. I've been in sales before, and NLP has made such a difference in my life because it really made me feel like really empowered to be able to actually empower other people to make better decisions for themselves. And that's what sales is, right? You're empowering people through your communication with your words to overcome those limiting beliefs that they have about themselves and actually take a chance and take an opportunity and make more empowering decisions for themselves. So NLP has made a huge difference in how I communicated with people, and so I decided to step back into corporate sales. So overall, I've been in sales for about 17 years, and but inside I knew that one day I'm gonna be on stage again, I'm gonna be speaking, I'm gonna have my own seminar company. Does anybody even call it like seminars anymore? Yeah? I think it's more like coaching. Everybody just uses the word coaching events. But I knew that I wanted to be, on stage again and share my mission and share my passion. And then 2020 hit, and I was like, thank God I'm not a coach, because nobody's doing events anymore. Like nobody has. We used to have events in like big hotel rooms and where people would come. And I was like, wow, those people are screwed. Like the seminar company or the seminar industry is screwed right now. Well, little did I know that the coaching industry was going to have the biggest shift ever. right? Everything went online. Our reach to be able to like reach out to people in other countries and expand our message, it completely shifted. It expanded, and also 80% of the population became coaches. Right? So it inspired so many people to become coaches, which is awesome, right? It's inspired people to be able to like pursue their gifts, their natural talents that they have, and be out there and recognize that they actually have the value to share with other people, right? We don't have to go through these corporate giants anymore to get value. We can go to people that have real value and learn from them. So it's really cool. It's really awesome just what's happened over the last couple of years. Now, what I didn't realize was how difficult it was going to be to become for each of us individually to really get heard, right? Because even though we have this bigger reach and we have tens of thousands of followers, what I've noticed is that there's so much competition, there's so much noise, and it's actually changed the buyer psychology, right? It's getting harder for people to build trust, to build deeper relationships. Like, how many of you have found that it's easier to build more relationships, but it's harder to build deeper relationships, right, online? Yeah. People are becoming free information gatherers. They're becoming swipers. They're so overwhelmed with like the choices and how many coaches are out there that they're starting to question, like, who do I go to? Where can I get free information from? And it's really becoming more difficult for each of us as individuals to really like build a community around what we do. And so I had a calling in 2020 to step back into the coaching industry. And over the last year and a half, I've invested probably about $35,000 into business coaches. Like, I knew everything about sales, but I'm like, how do I actually make it work online, right? With this new age, with the new buyer psychology. And I've hired some of the best mentors out there. I've invested into tons of different programs. And again, what I found through all of this is that even though there is, this bigger reach, it's really, really difficult to build those trusting relationships. So what I wanted to talk about today is give you guys some value, give back to this community, and share with you what I've learned over this last year and a half of building my online business. How do we start to build trust? Like, how do we become that trusting authority in the online space to get people to actually like want to book discovery calls or consultations with us, to want to come to our events? Okay, so how many of you are excited about learning that? Yeah. Woo, okay. Awesome. So, in my 17 years in sales, one of the things that I found that really the reason most people don't buy or don't commit or don't take action is because of three things. They don't trust you, and not because you're not trustworthy, they just don't know you, right? They have no idea who you are. They have no idea what your experience is. So they don't trust you. Number two is they don't trust the process or the program or the process that you're teaching. They don't know if it's going to work. So for somebody, for example, who has never heard of NLP before, and they're used to thinking, actually I had somebody yesterday ask me, what is NLP? And I'm like, you don't know yet? It's so weird for me to like not have people know about NLP because I spend so much time talking to other coaches, most of which know what NLP is. But if somebody doesn't know what it is, and they're used to like the old way thinking of going to a therapist for 10, 20 years, paying $200 every session, and they believe that change takes a really long time, they might not trust that you can actually create change in 5 minutes or 10 minutes, that it doesn't take all this time. So educating people about the process becomes important. And then the third reason why people don't buy is because they don't trust themselves. Okay, they don't trust that they can actually get the results that they're looking for, right? Because think about this, if I came to you and I said, you know what, beyond a shadow of a doubt, you are going to make $100,000 this year, and I can teach you exactly how to do it, And all you have to invest is $3,000 into my coaching program, and guaranteed, like no doubt about it, you're gonna make $100,000 this year. And you knew that was true. It would be a no-brainer, right? It's like trading out. Okay, I pay $3,000, I get $100,000. But why is it that most people don't buy programs? And it could be anything, right? If you came to somebody and you said, you know, you can have the perfect body, or you can have a deep, meaningful relationship with yourself. And most people that don't buy, they don't believe that the result is actually possible for them. So that's why they don't commit to it, right? They think it's just one of the things they're gonna learn, it's gonna sit on the shelf. So those are the 3 reasons why people don't buy. So how do we start building that trust? How do we start building the trust in us as coaches? How do we start building the trust in our process or our program? And building trust in people, so people trust themselves so they can actually accomplish those results. So this is all about the client journey. So what the client journey is building that relationship, right? Starting from that initial connection that you have with people and building the relationship with them that eventually gets people to show up, to book a discovery call with you, to show up to, you know, if you're doing a retreat, or if you're doing like a free event or a free live. And then from there, inspiring them to sit down with you one-on-one so you can inspire them to take action and commit to their success. Okay, so that is what we call the client journey. Now the client journey is very different now than it was, again, 10 years ago, right? Because 10 years ago, or even maybe 5 years ago, the client journey was all about the journey of buying, right? So they show up to your event because it's free, and then we take them through the journey of actually like going through their decision-making process of you know, trying it out, getting something for free, getting value out of it, and then making the decision to buy. Now, the client journey happens before then. Because even getting people to your free event, getting people to literally push a button to turn on their computer, go to the Zoom link, and turn on their camera, because they're probably washing dishes while they're watching you, it's like pulling teeth, right? It's so difficult. And I've had so many launches where I had to invest so much time into marketing just to get people to come to like a free 20-minute event. So the journey now happens way before somebody even shows up. So how do we start to build that? So let me ask you, like, what usually happens when you first make a connection with a client? Or not a client at this point yet, but if you first make a connection with somebody online, what is the first thing that they're gonna do?
Watch a video, read a post.
Yeah, they're gonna go to your social media, right? They're not gonna go to a website, they're not gonna do anything like that. They're not gonna book a consultation or get on the email. They're gonna go to your social media. So your social media now is the business card, right? People wanna know what you're about. They wanna read your bio, they wanna watch your videos. They're gonna watch you probably for a few months before they even decide if what you have to offer is for them or if it's even real. So the very beginning of starting to build that relationship and the client journey is, what are you posting online? What is the content that you're putting out, okay? So how many of you have heard, the know, like, and trust factor? Okay, so a lot of people talk about this, right? You gotta get people to know, like, and trust you. Great, but how do we do that? Right, how do we get people to know us? How do we get people to like us and to trust us? Now I've pre-written this, and just to save time, because I know that we're on the time clock here. So the first thing that we want to look at in that journey, right, in creating that relationship, is how do we get people to know us, right? How do we get people, as soon as they go onto Instagram, Facebook, how do they start getting to know us? So what I want to talk about is, how do we start to create that journey through the content that we're posting out? Because what I found is that a lot of people get so overwhelmed with content planning. You guys ever experience that? You're like, what do I post? How do I post it? Which order? And you know, it becomes so overwhelming that you end up like not doing it at all. So this is gonna be about how do we start to get people to build that relationship through the content that we're posting, so eventually they end up showing up to our offer. So getting people to know us, this is what we call our character content. Okay, so that's the one, so these are like, if you look at these, the 4 C's of content creation. The first one is your character content. And it's all about getting people to know who you are, okay? So character content has everything to do with your story. Now actually, I just remembered I wanted to pass these out. Yeah, pass these out, thank you. And I'll walk through them, so you don't have to go through it yet. But your character content is all about getting people to know you. So it has everything to do with your story. And if you're thinking about, well, like, what does my story have anything to do with me getting clients online? Well, the answer is that it has everything to do with you getting clients online. Because when people hear your story, what it paints to them is that whatever struggle that they're going through right now, that you've been there, that you know what they're going through. And this is what's gonna help people resonate with you, right? Because if I just came up and I said, hey, I have never had a struggle in my life, but I'm always happy and I can teach you how to be happy. And then you're like depressed. So you're thinking, okay, yeah, first of all, that doesn't even sound real. And secondly, how do you know you can help me if you've never been there? Right, and people love watching like people failing online. They love watching pain because it helps them understand that like you know what they're going through. Right? Some of the best posts out there are if you're getting on there and being vulnerable and you're talking about your past failures or your current failure even. Like people love that because it just lets them know that what they're going through is real and that there's hope, okay? So if you're thinking about like, how do I create a character post, right? How do I put my story out there? Like what is the format? Because all of you have, I'm sure, like very long stories, and there's a lot of different pieces to your story, right? So you're not necessarily just getting out and sharing like, so I was born, on this day, and then this happened, and this happened, and this happened, right? You're not sharing your entire story, but you're sharing a very specific piece that resonates with whoever you're helping, like with your target audience. So when it comes to creating a character post or posting your story, what you want to talk about is first giving people a small snippet of your background. So my story, so that you guys know, I'll kind of use myself as an example throughout this talk, is that I was born in Russia. So I came here in '97, I was 11 years old. And growing up in a very like fear-based society, entrepreneurship wasn't a thing, right? Because it was right post-communism. And I was also an introvert. So moving to a country where I didn't know the language, I didn't know the culture, I didn't really have any friends moving here, I had to adapt and I had to adjust and I had to really relearn everything, relearn communication. So it's just a little snippet of my story, but it helps people understand like, okay, she's an introvert, I'm an introvert, okay, maybe there's some hope for me. Right, maybe I can also become a coach or a public speaker, or I can be good at sales, even though I'm an introvert. The next thing that you want to talk about is I know you can't see it, so the next thing you want to talk about is the fall. So the fall is basically, what is the struggle? What is the challenge? What were you going through at that time? And it's okay to be very vulnerable, it's okay to be emotional because people connect to emotion. Right, so what was the big struggle that you were going through? So for me, it was not knowing how to speak the language, being an introvert, not having any friends, really having anxiety about even like walking up to people, walking up to other kids in school, making friends. And growing up, when I became 18, I didn't go to college right away. So for me, I was thinking, what can I do that is going to allow me to still create the success that I want, even though I didn't have a skill. I didn't go to college. I don't have like a specialty. Most people have a very clear path, right? Doctor, lawyer. Obviously today there's a lot more options than we had back then. So what can I do that's gonna allow me to still create the success that I want? And that is when I decided on sales. And the reason I decided on sales is because I thought, well, most people suck at sales. So if I can learn this one skill that most people either have fear around or they're not good at it, I can have job security for life. And I can be in charge of my own destiny when it comes to like how much money I make or where I work or what I do. So that was my fall. Now, the next step is the journey. So the journey is all about what did you have to go through to learn to basically become who you are today. And the journey is essentially what people are going to pay you for. Because if you say, well, I just woke up one day, I read a Tony Robbins book, and it changed my life, and now I'm the super successful person. Now pay me $3,000 to teach you how to do the same thing. They're gonna be like, yeah, they're gonna be like, I can just read a book, and I'll be in the same place. So the journey is all about, the thing that people pay for when it comes to any kind of program, any kind of coaching, is they want results fast and easy. So the more that you can make it like, oh my gosh, I went through years of struggle. I had to actually, Aubrey talks a lot about like a health condition that she had. People don't want to have to go through that to have a realization that they want to change, right? Years of depression, years of anxiety, years of like trial and error and failure, investing thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars into mentorship, or, I had to, not me, but I'm just giving you an example, go to Tibet and meet with a monk, and I spent 2 years with him, just to learn. Like, people don't want to have to go through all of that. People want the results now, and they want them fast, and they want them easy. So the journey is what people are going to essentially pay you for. And then the breakthrough is, who are you today because of this? Right? This is when we make it possible for people to see that change is real, that there's opportunity for them. Right? So this is the compelling outcome that people want, that they're going to invest in you to help them achieve it. So that is your character content. Now, you don't have to necessarily post an entire story like in one sitting, because that could be very long. When you're creating content, you can break up your story into snippets, right? So maybe one post you talk a little bit about just where you came from and like the challenge that you had. In another post, you can post a little bit about your like where you are today, right? So you can break up your story into probably even hundreds of different snippets, so you can infuse it throughout your content strategy. All right, so now that people know us, right? When they see your story, they're gonna get to know you. How do we get people to like us? So the like part is all about connection posts. So this is what we call connection posts. And connection posts are all about what qualities make you you. Like, what are your beliefs? What do you like? What do you dislike? What do you hate? What pisses you off sometimes? Like, people want to hear that. If you think about like right now, there's a huge debate about the vaccines versus non-vaccines. And you put a post out there, you're gonna get some love and you're gonna get some hate. Well, that's okay. It's supposed to, because the people that really love what you stand for, it's gonna build more trust because they know that you share the same values. So they're gonna be much more inclined to follow you, to show up for you, and to put their trust in you. So the connection posts are all about, they're all about building the connections. This is also a really good way, by the way, the connection posts are also really great for audience building, right? Because most of the time people don't want to just go on Instagram to get a bunch of education and tips, right? They want to go on Instagram or Facebook so they can be entertained. So if you're somebody who maybe you work with moms and you help them like balance their work-life balance, and they're working from home and their kids are driving them crazy, you can create posts. Reels right now are just a great way to do this, but you can create posts about maybe your mom and your kids are like throwing toys at you and you're trying to work and your hair is all a mess. And it's entertaining, right? People love those kinds of posts because they get to go on, they have a laugh, They get to connect with you. They see that you're going through the same thing. And that's ultimately what makes people want to follow you and subscribe to you. Okay, so connection posts are very important. So now that we know, now that people know us, they like us, how do we get people to trust us? Okay, so that is the big point here. How do we get people to trust us? And your trust posts are very simple. These are your credibility posts. So this is when you try to flex your knowledge muscle, right? You tell people, you give people free tips on what they can do. This is where you really start getting to build like the authority and showing people that you're the expert in that field. So I know a lot of people have a lot of reservation about giving away free content because they're like, well, what happens? What if I give away all my content? I'm not gonna have anything left to teach, right? Well, let me tell you this. First of all, if you think that you can give people everything away, there's no freaking way, because you have way more value than you think you have, okay? And secondly, even if you did, like there are people out there that give away literally everything. And guess what? People still don't do it, right? You can tell people, hey, wake up at 5 a.m., meditate, journal, read a book. It's gonna change your life. How many people are actually gonna be like, okay, and they're gonna do it, right? They're not. Most people are still not gonna do it. They're still gonna need help with accountability, with motivation, with overcoming, limiting beliefs or mindset issues. So you can give away everything for free and still people are still gonna need your help. But what it does do is, imagine if you give away a tip to somebody and they actually do it, and it changes their life. They're like, oh my gosh, this person really knows what they're talking about. And they gave this to me for free. I can't even imagine what they're gonna charge me for. Even if you told them the exact same thing. You just, put a lot more of yourself into it, and the accountability, and actually making sure that people follow through. So don't be afraid of just putting out your value out there. Okay, you're gonna be solving problems. You're gonna be solving problems through the content, but it's gonna build the trust that you're the authority and you know what you're talking about. All right, so now that people know us, they like us, they trust us, how do we get them to actually commit to action? So those are gonna be your conversion posts. So a conversion post is essentially a sales post, but it doesn't have to be something that you're selling. Like you're not gonna post, okay, so sign up for my $3,000 program, right? Conversion posts do not work for high ticket offers, right? If you're trying to work with somebody for like 4, 6, 12 months, and it's a huge financial investment, it's gonna be very difficult, no matter what other coaches tell you. So it's good for offers that are like maybe very low ticket offers, $30, even up to like $100 if you've built enough trust. But your call to action in your conversion posts can really be about anything. Hey, subscribe to my newsletter, subscribe to my email. I'm doing a free workshop, register, right? It's getting people to take action. So how do you create a conversion post? Well, the first thing is essentially you call out your audience, right? You call out your audience. And we'll talk about this next, but you want to identify who your audience actually is, right? You want to know who you're speaking to. So you're going to call out your perfect client. So let's say if you are somebody who works with moms that are overwhelmed and their kids are going crazy and they're popping pills because they're so, they have so much anxiety. You're gonna say, hey, are you this person? Are you a mom who's overwhelmed by trying to balance, work and life? You're gonna call them out, and then you're gonna resonate with them. You're gonna say, you know what, I've been there. That was me 2, 5, 10 years ago. I know exactly what it's like. The third step is you're gonna educate them. Now, in this education, you're gonna basically share with them how you can work with them. And we'll go into that in a second here. But you're gonna say, you know what, this is exactly what I do. I've been there, I've overcome it, I found a strategy that's gonna help you, not only take care of your kids, get all the work done, but it's also gonna give you some time to yourself so you can, do something for yourself and unwind, okay? So you're gonna educate them, and then you're going to give them a call to action, which again could be anything as simple as subscribing to like a freebie that you're doing, a workshop, even just say, hey, let me know if you resonate, or DM me, we can have a conversation. So those are your conversion posts. So how do you actually take all of this and create like a content map, right? Because you don't want to just randomly pick one. You want to make sure that you're doing it in a very strategic way. So what I would recommend is focusing most of your energy on the credibility posts, because this is how you're building authority and this is how you're building trust. So let's say if you post 6 days a week, right? So out of 6 days, maybe on Monday, you start with a credibility post, right? You're flexing your knowledge muscle, you're giving away some free tips. And then on Tuesday, you post something about your character, something about your story. And then on Wednesday, you do another credibility post. And then on Thursday, you post a connection post, right? Connection, again, it's really letting people what you stand for. People know what you stand for. And then Friday, you could do another credibility post, and then Saturday, you can do a conversion post. So you could say something like, if you find this valuable, like these are the ways to work with me. And you let people know that you are open for business. Because a lot of people, they'll watch your content, like people are not action takers these days. So they'll watch your content, they'll resonate with you, they're like, wow, this person is awesome. But if you don't actually ask them to take some sort of an action, they're never gonna do it. They're just gonna sit back and keep watching the content, okay? So let's talk a little bit about this, because creating content is awesome, but guess what? It's not gonna work if you don't know who you're actually talking to. And I know a lot of you have probably heard like a million coaches talking about their niche and why niche is so important. And it's been around forever, like this is not a new thing. So 10 years ago when we were teaching coaches and entrepreneurs, we were stressing the importance of having a niche. Because what happens is that most coaches, when they get a certification, when they go out there, they want to help everybody, right? I mean, think about this. Who can NLP help?
Everybody.
Everybody. You can help anybody with any problem. So can you imagine if I came out and I'm like, hey, humans, do you have a problem? I know how to solve that problem. So come to my course. It's very chunked up. You're gonna be like, okay, great, right? So you're not resonating with anybody. So how do you start to formulate your niche, right? Because when it comes to your niche, it's not so much as who you can help, because you can help anybody. It's who are you marketing to? Who are you marketing your message to? Now, does that mean that if somebody who is not in your niche comes to you, you can't help them? No, right? You can still help them. So one of my coaches that I worked with one-on-one, his niche was fitness professionals. I'm not a fitness professional, but I knew him, I knew he was credible, I've been watching his content, so when I set up a call with him, he was like, yeah, I'm teaching it to fitness professionals, but it's the same exact thing if you're a business coach or a sales coach or a spiritual coach or a mindset, a life coach. The process is the same, but who are you targeting your message to? Who are you marketing to? So if you're thinking, okay, so how do I start to formulate a niche? Because obviously there's so many people, right? You want to help everybody. So your niche can come from 4 places, okay? The first one is your story. Your own story. And most of the time, your niche is going to be yourself a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. This is actually one of the best ways to, if you ever experience like imposter syndrome, a lot of coaches do, I would say most coaches do. If you're feeling if you're feeling like, man, I don't know if I could help this person, or if there's any sort of like low confidence or hesitation, that just means that you're not niche down enough. So if you're like, oh, I'm gonna be a spiritual coach, okay, well there's so many different ways, right? There's so many different aspects of spirituality. That's a very heavy burden, right? That's very chunked up. But if you're like, okay, I'm a spiritual coach with this specific method that I've done 1,000,000 times, that I use it on myself, and I can easily, like, I can talk about it in my sleep, and that is what I do, guess what? Your confidence is gonna go way up. And now you're the expert in that specific method. So it's gonna come from your story, right? So again, think about, like, what are the challenges? Were you somebody who was unhealthy? Were you somebody who was depressed or anxious? Were you somebody who was struggling? And you can formulate your niche based on your own experience. The second place to find your niche is your core competency. Like, what is something that you're really good at? So maybe you don't have, a crazy story of struggle, but maybe you spent 17 years in sales. Maybe you've been you've worked at a gym and you've been training people, and even though you yourself have never been like overweight or unhealthy, you know this industry so well that you can easily teach people. Okay, so it doesn't have to come from your story. It can come from like watching other people's stories, right? Or just something that you're really, really good at. Maybe you're really good at like time management, just naturally, when other people are not. So you can figure out what is that skill that you have, and you start to reverse engineer it to break it down into steps, which NLP is really good for, right? It's really great for taking a process and making it into a process. And you could teach it to people in steps. All right, and then the third place that your niche can come from is, do you just have a passion? Right? Maybe it doesn't come from your story. Maybe you're not even really good at it, but you have a passion for something. And how long does it really take to learn something? Probably not that long, right? Depending on the passion, but if you're really passionate about something and you could teach it and you want to teach it to other people, right? It's very easy for you to learn something. So is there something like that you're super passionate about? So helping people get healthy, helping people connect with themselves and find a balance, like spiritual practice, helping people become really good at business, or whatever the skill is. And then the fourth place is there a person, is there somebody that you would absolutely love talking to, absolutely love helping? So maybe you love connecting with other moms because you have kids, they have kids, you guys are experiencing the same issues and you have the same values, you can talk about the same things, and you can hang out with this person all day long without feeling drained. And you would absolutely love working with other moms, or other coaches, or entrepreneurs, or other people that share the same values. So you can also think about, like, who is that person that you want to help? And once you find that person, you can reverse engineer it, and you start to break down their character profile into what we call an ideal avatar, an ideal client avatar. Now, a lot of people think that if they say, okay, I'm gonna help other coaches, or I'm gonna help people that are depressed or anxious, or I'm gonna help people that are overweight, they think that they have their perfect avatar. But the reality is that's not deep enough. So I actually gave you guys a handout of some of the things that you want to start considering about your ideal avatar. And what you want to do is you want to break it down so minute, you want to chunk it down so much that you literally create this person that you can sit in front of, have a conversation with, and make sure that all of your content is directly going to this person. So what is their name? What is their age? Do they have a family? What do they do for work? What are their values? What are their goals? What are the struggles that they're going through? What does the daily schedule look like? Like, literally, what do they do throughout the day? Where do they hang out? What clubs do they go to? right? Clubs, not dancing clubs, but what clubs do they belong to? I'm thinking of like Facebook groups. What do they like to do for hobbies? And actually breaking it down so narrow is gonna make it super easy for you guys to find clients. Because instead of going into this online space, you're like, that's millions and billions of people, and you're thinking, where do I even go to find clients? You can start to narrow it down and say, okay, I'm gonna go, I know that my ideal client loves to hike, so I'm gonna join a bunch of hiking clubs. I'm just gonna talk to people. Or, certain activities, or maybe if they have a certain medical condition that maybe people don't talk about, I'm gonna go to other doctors or other practitioners that kind of specialize in that. So it starts to really narrow down, and it starts giving you, actually opening up opportunities for you to meet and connect with your ideal clients. And once you know what your niche is, you know who your avatar is, so this is when we start to formulate our value proposition. You can call it your offer, you can call it your business statement. And creating a value proposition is actually very easy, right? So if you think about, who are you serving? Who is the ideal person that you want to serve, right? So I help, so for me, for example, I help coaches that are, maybe they're new coaches, they're just starting out, and they've never been in sales before, they've never sold anything before, they have a really low self-confidence when it comes to actually offering their value. Maybe they don't feel right about taking money from people, so they have some limiting beliefs around money or charging high prices, and they don't really know what to say, right? They don't know how to take a consultation and how to have a conversation, how to ask the right questions to get people motivated to want to work with them. So you want to identify who it is that you're serving, what is the problem that you solve, and your problem is usually going to be exactly what I just mentioned, right? The problem that they're going through. So they don't know, they don't really know how to offer their value in a way that feels aligned, that feels authentic to them. They don't want to be salesy, they don't want to push people away or sound pushy. And then the third thing is, how do you solve that problem? So this is going to be essentially your program, right? So I have a program called Influence to Income. And in that Influence to Income program, what we do is I help people with, first off, how do you take an online connection and make it so that you create the trust, you create the relationship with people, and bring them through that client journey so that they want to book a consultation with you. They want to book a discovery call for you and show up with you. The second pillar of that program is, how do you take that discovery call or strategy call and actually inspire people to take action, to overcome their own limitations? I don't have money, I don't have time, I don't know if I could do this. And how do you inspire people through that to actually get them to commit to their own transformation? And then the third pillar of that program is the mindset, right? It's the accountability. It's making sure that you actually feel really good about the words that are coming out of your mouth, about what you're saying. Because if you're not confident in offering your value, people are going to feel it, and they're not going to be confident in you or themselves. So those pillars, and I would recommend, is having 3 pillars, because those 3 pillars are essentially going to become the pillars of your program. And then that's going to be the pillars of your offer pitch that you tell people when you're pitching your offer. And then lastly is, what is the ideal outcome, right? Because people don't buy processes, they buy results. So if I told you, okay, you're going to pay me all this money, and I'm going to teach you how to sell. And you're like, okay, well, I'm gonna learn how to sell, but what is that gonna do for me? Right? People don't buy processes. They don't want, they're not gonna pay to do something or learn something without knowing what it's actually going to get them. But if I say, hey, if you work with me, you are gonna become so confident, so aligned, that it's gonna be hard for you not to sell, because you're gonna be so enthusiastic about what you do. It's going to resonate from you. You're going to feel confident. People are going to, you're gonna attract people, and just through your confidence, they're gonna know that they're gonna become confident for themselves so they can actually achieve those results. Like, how would you like to learn how to do that? Right, so that is the result, because that's ultimately what people want. So if you're a fitness coach, right, you wanna talk about what is the ideal outcome. It's having that amazing body, having the energy, having the health, so they can spend time with their kids, so they can live to be 100 years old, so they can be, you know, disease-free. If you're a spiritual coach, how are people gonna feel when they found that spiritual practice that they can do daily and they're aligned with, right? How's that gonna make them feel? So it's all about getting people logically and getting people emotionally, okay? So that is ultimately going to become your value proposition. And you can simplify it, right? You can make it short and like put it in your Instagram bio, into your Facebook. It could be like your elevator pitch. If you meet somebody on the street and they ask you what you do. But that is how easy it is to break this down. So where can you use this? On social media.
Yeah, definitely. Having more organization in my business on social media. So that will set me up even more to be prepared. So instead of what do I post, it's like, what day is it? I've already set up the skeletal structure. Now I can find inspiration. What one the sees it is today. Love it.
Absolutely, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's very, I mean, it really all comes down to the strategy, right? So I'm a big proponent of like systems, right? So having a system to where you're not so emotionally involved in like figuring things out, you know what works, because that's gonna free you up emotionally to actually put your energy where it matters, right? Which is connecting with people, having those genuine relationships, meeting clients, you know, and having this kind of a running system that you know works. So I hope you guys got some value today. I wanna share with you, so, you know, I was talking to Aubrey, and I'm so like passionate about this community just because this is where I got my certification. I was actually in the last course, like last live course that we did as well. So I really, and I also love like the spiritual vibe. I'm a big spiritual person, and I feel like this is like my part in helping humanity evolve, is helping other spiritual coaches as well spread their message. So what I wanna offer you guys, and this is 100% free, it's a part of the experience that you're already going through. But I would love to sit down with each of you just one-on-one, and you know, if you already have this down, you're like, I'm rocking it, I'm good. But if you're still kind of in the process of like trying to figure out, maybe you haven't pinpointed the niche, or you know, you're still struggling with your message or the content that you're putting out, or you want to think about like, okay, I have my niche, I have my content, but I don't really know how to bridge that gap between what I'm doing online to actually connecting with clients. So I want to give you guys a gift of my time to sit down with each of you individually and just help you map out your own unique client journey. Because all of you are very unique, you have a unique story, you have unique clientele, and I want to see you actually take the skills that you're learning here and putting it to use. Because I remember what it was like to walk out of here and being like, I have all these skills, but you have like a toolbox, but you're in the desert, you don't know what to build, right? You're like, where do I actually use them? How do I find people? And how do I help